Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of Topics with Mr. Javadi, your retired teacher after 30 years, who now does YouTube, and I love it. I love doing it. I taught language arts, debate, speech, English, so it's right up my alley. But anyway, I'm just really grateful today to have just a phenomenal guest, and you'll find out more here in a little bit. By the name of Grant Nasworthy, right? Did I
Norsworthy, I say, but depends
Norsworthy,
on your
Norsworthy.
accent.
Okay, pardon my mispronunciation there. But
No worries.
what a wonderful musician he is, and much more where that comes from. So, Mr. Norsworthy, thank you for joining us. Please take a little bit of time to introduce just a bit here, and I'll let you continue that.
Sure thing. Okay, well, Mr. Javadi, what a privilege it is to be with you and your viewers. Thank you for having me. I'm
Oh,
making this call from my home in a place called Upper Moutere, which is a rural part of New Zealand. I'm sitting in my little home studio. If you drew a mile radius circle, there's probably more sheep within that circle than people. But that's where I am now. But I'm actually originally from Melbourne, Australia, and have always loved music and actually began an attempt, I guess, to be a professional musician when I was in my early 20s, I guess, which is a long time ago now.
yeah.
And found myself playing bass guitar in a band called the Paul Coleman Trio with Paul Coleman, our lead singer, main songwriter, and Phil Gordian, our drummer, and that band actually enjoyed some success for a while. And on the strength of that band's success in Australia, within the independent Christian contemporary music world, the CCM world, uh, we managed to relocate from Melbourne, Australia to Nashville, Tennessee, Music City,
Yeah.
USA. And that relocation happened in February 2002. We'd released 4 albums before that, independently, and done some touring in Australia and New Zealand, and even a little visit to America. But it was from that early 2002 when we now found ourselves, I guess, in a bigger ocean rather than the small fish pond of Australia and New Zealand's CCM world. Put out another couple of albums between 2002 and 2004 when the band sort of broke up. Although we have done a few things with each other since 2004, as recently as 2023, where we had our 25-year anniversary concert. But I also played bass guitar in a band called Sonic Flood for a few years, have written
Right, right.
songs and play other instruments, and had a go at being a career musician outside of the Paul Coleman Trio. But my wife, Brooke, and I, now Brooke's from New Zealand, actually where I am
Right.
speaking to you from now. Uh, After several years of that in Nashville, we decided to relocate to where her parents live. So we're 2 minutes down the road from her parents. We found that with three young boys at this stage, and we still have three boys, uh, yeah, to have grandparents close by was going to be more important than being in Nashville. As much as we loved Nashville and America and being part of the scene there, which is very big and very exciting, we decided to put family first. And so since late 2008, I want to say 2008, 2018, I should say. Let me get
Mhm.
my calendar right here. Late 2018, we've been living here in Upper Moutere. I still do quite a bit of travel doing music, but mainly speaking and teaching these days. In fact,
Yeah.
you'd be interested to know, Mr. Javadi, that I used to be an elementary school teacher,
Oh,
fourth grade.
really? Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
fourth grade for a couple of years before
Wow.
having a going at being a musician.
Well,
So I
God bless
appreciate
you.
what you're
That's
doing
yeah.
here,
Oh,
and
you bet. You bet.
I'm glad to be part of it. So yeah, here
No,
I
that
am now.
you're a fellow educator. That's great. That's wonderful.
Yeah. I think
Um,
I'm a better
uh,
educator than I am a musician, to be honest.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, God bless you for your time in the classroom, and
Thank you.
also for what you do, continually with the preaching and the teaching, etc.
Yeah.
It's a high calling, and you're doing it, so that's awesome. Um, so speaking, we'll definitely touch on faith because
Sure.
John 15:5. I can't do anything apart from him. I've learned that. Um,
Mm.
so I'm working on that with this channel. That's for sure.
Yep, sure.
But we'll touch on that. But let me ask you this. So you were born in Melbourne, am I right?
Yeah, well, outside Melbourne in a little town called Werribee, but yeah, it's
Okay.
been absorbed by Melbourne. So yeah, Melbourne, Australia
Yeah.
is where I was born.
Melbourne, Australia, very famous place. Did you, was the family all Australian, or were they British or Scottish, or, you know?
Yeah, well, both my mother and my father were born in Australia, but from British heritage. If you go back far enough, uh, we have to go back at probably 3 or 4 generations to find people who were born in Great Britain. And the name Norsworthy, my last name, is definitely an English name if you go
Yeah.
far enough back. But we are told that it somewhere come from a worthy man from the Norse. So
Mm.
something Scandinavian about Norsworthy.
Oh, I
Uh,
see.
but
I see. Yeah.
somewhere in there is that. But no, British sort of European heritage. My grandmother on my father's side used to call Great Britain the homeland, even
Yeah.
though she was not born there. Uh,
Yeah.
but
Well,
you get the picture.
yeah, well, and to be honest, so do I. Even though I'm an Iranian American, I am realistic enough to realize that we're all Anglo-Saxons, and that heritage is very rich.
Mm,
With Shakespeare and all the rest of it, and very, very rich. And so I also see that as my root now.
wow.
Having become an American citizen. And
Mm,
I also see Australians, New Zealanders as our cousins. We're all very, very similar. Speak the same language and have a lot of the similar tendencies and habits. Although there's thank God there's variations, but
mm,
there are a lot of similarities.
mm.
So what sports did you like as a youngster? Were you into Australian rules football, rugby, or what was it?
Well, Australia as a nation is kind of divided on
Uh-huh.
the whole football front. You know, there's
Uh-huh.
significant portions of the nation that are very into rugby. Then there are significant portions of the nation, certain states that are very into Australian rules football. And then there is a lot of people who love football that's soccer.
Yeah,
They call
yeah,
soccer
yeah,
football, and they're right
yeah,
because that's the one
yeah,
you use your foot for the most, I guess. But no,
yeah.
Australian rules football is my code of football. I never played. My older brother and my younger brother both played Australian rules football, but they'd come home every second weekend concussed or with a dislocated finger or whatever,
That's a
and I
tough
didn't want to be
sport.
involved with that. Oh
It's
yeah,
a tough sport, and there's no, from what I can tell, no protection. They just get out there and
mouth
play.
guard. I have a mouth
Yeah,
guard,
mouth guard.
and
Yeah,
they'll
yeah,
strap your ankles, but that's about
yeah,
it. No,
yeah,
to this day I really enjoy Australian rules football as an observer, and also cricket during the summer. Cricket is almost a
yeah,
religion in
yeah,
Australia during the
yeah.
summer, and motor racing for me as well. Formula One motor racing especially. So
That's
yeah,
one.
I
That's
enjoyed those sports as a child growing up. I remember having to get out of bed sometimes at 2 o'clock in the morning to watch a motor race somewhere in South Africa or in Belgium or whatever. Uh, but now we can watch it much more easily online and
yeah.
delayed and at our whim. But yeah, I still enjoy watching Formula One, and I stay in touch with cricket and Aussie rule football.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. I love it. I love soccer, so I watch Premier League a lot.
Ah,
That's my go-to league, because, well, again, soccer kind of comes from England.
yes.
And the clubs
So does
are,
cricket.
yeah, and the clubs are amazing. Like I just watched Leeds United play. Um, Leeds United played Liverpool, and then they tied them 3-3, and it was an amazing game. So I get a lot out of that. I still
Yeah.
do. But
Well, I've got a
anyway,
little theory about cricket. Like,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think some of the nations where cricket is hugely popular, like Australia,
right.
India, Pakistan, other countries. This is an imported game from the nation England or Great Britain that colonized us, and we love playing their game better than they can. as our sort of
Yeah, yeah.
inner
Well, and
rebellion. Now,
yeah,
America had a
yeah.
war. America had a war, so they didn't have to play cricket. That was, yeah, I like to joke that that was the reason for the
They
American
came
War
up
of Independence.
with baseball. Yeah,
Yeah, we're not going to play
which
your
is
game. We'll play baseball. But us
yeah.
Australians,
So
we have to play cricket, so we try and play
right,
it better than
right.
the
But
English.
see, you just somehow you just can't get rid of that English blood because you don't want to
Right?
play cricket. You don't want to play cricket, but you play baseball instead. They're very
Yeah,
similar.
yeah.
And the football, the ball, the American football, the ball looks very similar to rugby and all that stuff.
It's,
So
it's very similar shape, isn't it? Yeah.
very similar
Well, we've
shape.
got a
Yeah. So
theory about Australian rule football. The
yeah,
theory
yeah.
is that somewhere in the 1800s, someone had a rugby ball, but they were playing Gaelic football with it.
Hmm.
Gaelic football is a code of football that uses a spherical ball, but we only had a rugby ball, so we sort of incorporated some rules from a Gaelic football, but with this shaped ball, the oval shaped
Yeah,
ball,
yeah.
and
Right,
that's where
right.
Aussie rules football came from.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. I've watched it several times actually.
Hmm.
Well, you being a teacher, me being a teacher, let's go back to your school years a little bit. How was
Sure.
elementary school? Where did you go to elementary school, and how were you as a student, etc.?
Well, my father, he was an Air Force dad, and very soon after I was born, he moved into civil aviation. So he's a public servant, but still within aviation. And he was also very involved with Mission Aviation Fellowship (MAF). So the mission work that involves aircraft supporting missionaries in places like New Guinea, um, more remote areas. But Dad's work shifted around quite a bit. So even though I was born in Melbourne, I actually didn't start elementary school that we call primary school in Australia. I
Yeah,
started in Sydney, and then
right,
moved
right.
to Adelaide, where I started high school, and then finished high school back in Melbourne. I was never a great student academically, C's mainly,
Like
uh,
me, yeah, like me, yeah,
and always struggled to concentrate.
right.
Uh, had no trouble making friends. Um, Enjoyed school, but there was one teacher, Miss Byrne, who had me for the fifth and sixth grades. And I found out later that Miss Byrne, who was, I don't, in my memory, she's like 90, 100 years old, this little old lady who got the worst kids from my big school for 2 years. And she changed my life for the better. She
Oh
was
my,
an amazing woman who was very much about getting the kids who were not fitting in,
yeah,
not doing
yeah,
well, and
yeah.
she brought this level of order and organization and expectation, but love and joy to learning that I hadn't experienced up until then. So I'm forever thankful to Miss Byrne for that for
That's
2 years. Yeah.
that's a story and a half. I mean,
Oh,
it's
we could talk about that all day if you want, but
I mean, I mean,
we
I
better
mean
not.
that
But
is that is that. I mean, that just touches my heart. That's just beautiful.
yeah. Well, I didn't
God
become
bless.
a straight A student. I didn't
Yeah,
become a straight A student, but I started to take on board that actually this idea of bettering myself is my responsibility, and
yeah,
I'm not just swimming my way through life, but I'm actually here to explore different things and find where I resonate and go for it, to go
yeah,
for it.
yeah, yeah. You
And
bet. You
so
bet.
I guess I'm sort of a go for it sort of person. Yeah.
Yeah. So for kids listening out there, do you hear Grant's story, the testimony? Hang in there, and it
Yeah,
pays off. It pays off. Um,
absolutely.
so where did you go to college and all of that stuff, or did you?
Yes. So when I finished high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do
Hmm.
as a career, except I had just recently picked up the bass guitar and started playing in bands with friends, garage bands, just jam bands, just fooling
Yeah,
around bands. And I
yeah, yeah,
loved it. And I knew I loved music, but I was starting too late to jump straight to a career in music. And my parents, who were both sincere believers, followers of Jesus, and had raised me attending Baptist churches throughout life,
right.
um, they that influence is very strong. But also, they were saying, "Look, you've got to know what you want to do. I'm like, well, I want to be a musician, and they didn't think I had any special ability. Even though I'd had piano lessons all my life, sung in choirs all my life, played in brass bands throughout high school and even before that. But uh, this this joy from bass guitar, and now for me, not having to read notation, but being able to create music, but being inspired by listening to music rather than reading notation and coming up with my own songs and my own arrangements. That was
Wow,
really
wow, wow.
exciting for me. But I was starting too late. So at 19, I picked up a bass guitar, immediately found myself in three bands. So I'm trying to answer your question, but I thought, look, I'm going to play in as many bands as I can while I build up my skills, but I've got to do something. So I actually got a job in a bank. I worked as a teller for a couple of years, and then I thought I'm still not good enough yet. So I actually started a degree in elementary teaching. So I went to Victoria College, that used to be called Deakin University, in
Right,
Melbourne.
right.
So I studied there long enough to get a degree in teaching. I thought, now I'll have a go at being a musician. And my parents are saying, you've really got to get a couple of years, or at least 1 year of actually classroom teaching before
Yeah.
you have a go at being a musician. It's too risky. Like in their mind, having a go at being a musician was like such a slim chance of success that you
Hmm.
had to have a backup plan. So I listened to them, and straight out of my college experience, with my qualification as a primary school teacher, I took a job at Carey Baptist Grammar School and taught fourth grade for 2 years before going, right, now I'm going to have a go at being a musician. And I
Hmm.
loved that classroom teaching. So Deakin University, now called, now it's, I don't even know what it's called now, but Victoria University in Melbourne, that's where I got my degree in teaching and taught for 2 years, fourth grade at Carey Baptist Grammar School.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Love teachers, love coaches. They're awesome. And you're awesome for having done that.
Thank you. Well,
You know,
there's amazing similarity, I think, between being a classroom teacher and being a musician.
yeah.
When you're a musician, especially when you're in a band like the Paul Coleman Trio, like the Paul Coleman Trio were not navel gazing on this tortured artist. We're entertainers, unashamedly. Like we've got something to communicate. We want to scoop you up and take you somewhere. Well, classroom teaching's like that. You can be a
It,
dull teacher or you can be an engaging teacher.
very
And I
much.
wanted to be an engaging teacher. Like this
Uh,
classroom teaching is like doing a gig, like doing a concert. I
yeah,
just
it
don't
is.
have my bass guitar around my neck. You've got to grab the kids' attention and you've got to take them from here to there. And if you can get them there, it's so much fun. It's all
Yeah.
the staff meetings and curriculum planning and stuff that I didn't like. I loved being in the classroom with
Well,
my kids.
you read my mind because I'm the same way. I love just
Yeah.
being with the kids, and
Yeah.
working in the where the action is.
Yeah.
I
Love it.
do think being human, we complicate things too much, and
Oh, don't we?
I think that there's a lot of games being played with education, but that's a subject that we can talk about at a later time.
Mm.
But no, I love it. I love your background.
Oh, thank
Very
you.
genuine, very authentic, very authentic. I would have to say. So,
Huh.
so you started music basically what about 18? I thought
Well,
maybe
that's
you.
when
Yeah,
I'd say the bug bit was like,
yeah,
man, if I could find a way of being able to feed myself and pay rent doing this, I would have a go at that. I'd love to do that.
yeah.
That was
So,
about 8, 19, 20. Yeah.
but you had piano lessons when you were like 7, 8, things like that.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
uh,
On and off from about age 5 to the end of high school.
yeah.
Um, So,
Do
but I'd have to say that all my piano, all my brass bands, trumpet, flugelhorn, E flat tenor horn, and all my singing and choir never really connected with me.
oh, okay,
I thought music was about looking at black dots and lines and Italian words and decoding it correctly. And you did a
okay,
good job if you decoded it properly. But when I started listening to the Beatles, when I started listening to harder music. I started listening to things like Judas Priest and AC/DC, and there's something moved me here in this music, and I could listen and copy or even come up with my own things and be in a room with a drummer and two guitarists and a singer and me, and we could create our own music. And it wasn't about reading dots and lines anymore. It was about creating something. That's when it got exciting for me. And I appreciate my musical formal training and the theory that I know, even though it's a bit rusty now. But music became so much more fun and exciting when I realized this
Yeah,
is not about decoding, it's about creating.
yeah.
And
Well,
that's where it got fun.
and I know you probably agree with me that God is the creator, so He's the source of all creativity.
No,
Uh,
probably about it.
yeah,
if
I
if
mean, He is.
if we're right that God is creator of all creativity,
Yeah,
then we are somehow more in touch with the creator when we are being creative.
yeah, yeah,
And that's what I was, because you're absolutely right. It wasn't just, oh, this is more fun for me. This is actually, I think I'm finding what I'm created for.
hmm.
You see, like
Well,
this,
how that
ah,
how that happened for me was, for a while, one of my best gigs was a alternative high school teaching. I did that for about 10 years, from '05 to 15. I think it was around '07 or so that I got you guys' new map of the world album and just fell in love with it. Songs,
wow,
yeah, and it's songs like, is it Africa or is it about Africa?
Africa. Yep,
Africa, yeah.
that's on there.
Love that song. Love that song. I love Turn. My kids love Turn because I played it
Wow.
in the classroom. Because I had music in the classroom, so I would
Yep.
play Turn for my kids. They just thought the world of it because it was so fresh. You know, just
Wow.
amazing guitar and just and these are kids that would listen to Metallica and other groups like that. But or what's that? Systems of Down, or people like that.
System of a Down.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But this just attracted them, the
Great.
music you guys had. And I thought to
Wow.
myself,
Good to hear.
man, these guys, they know how to speak the kids' language. I mean, they're playing music that, well, I guess if they overthought it, it's Christian music, maybe they wouldn't want to listen to it. But the way you guys did it, oh my goodness, it grabbed their attention. So I thought to
That's
myself,
good to hear.
I thought to myself, that's success right there. That's success right there. So,
Yeah.
but
Well, Paul was
anyway,
a classroom teacher as well, you know.
yeah, yeah. No, I
Yeah.
use music. I use music a lot.
Mm.
Loved music, and I still do. And so, and I'm
Good to
kind
hear.
of like you. I listen. What have I been listening to lately? I've been listening to In Excess. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, I love their music. Love their music.
Amazing, right?
Don't change. That song. That's one of my favorites. Where
Yeah.
they're playing in a garage or something. And
Yeah.
Jars of Clay, by the way, does a cover song of "Don't Change," and
I didn't know that.
yeah, they do a great job. It's on
Wow.
YouTube if you want to check it out.
I will.
But yeah, I saw it live actually. I saw Jars of Clay. But anyway,
Okay.
so I haven't seen you guys, but that was about the time that I got the CD, New Map of the World. What an album! You want to
Yeah.
talk about that a little bit? How did that come about? Let's just go
Love to.
back a little bit. I get excited and I lose my order. But let's go back to, how did you come to start with Paul Coleman Trio?
Well, um, Paul, Phil, and myself, we were all living on the eastern side of Melbourne, Australia. We were
Yeah,
all following Jesus. We were all connected with the Christian church,
yeah,
and we were all wanting to be career musicians.
right.
So, with all that in common, we knew each other. That's about seven people. In the late '90s. So we all knew each
Yeah,
other. We'd sort of been to each other's gigs. We had sometimes played with each other. I'd played with Paul. Phil had played with Paul. I'd played with Phil. So we knew each other. We're moving in very similar circles, and we all wanted to be career musicians, I guess. Yeah, no, not I guess. We really wanted to be, and we're about the same sort of age as well. Um, so yeah, I think what happened was Paul really saw himself as being a solo artist, Paul Coleman, and he actually put out an album, uh, and it's called The Band Thing. He
Hmm.
put out that album, and it actually had on it the song "Fill My Cup," um, and he did some touring with just Phil on a snare drum. So Paul's playing acoustic guitar and singing. Phil's just playing snare drum and brushes and singing. So we can play tiny little places, do a live radio show, play for a church service. It's not a lot of production, and Paul's performance has always really relied on a lot of personality anyway, a lot of connecting.
Hmm.
Um, so there was that, and they actually did a tour of America. And then we're talking very small level touring, jumping in a car or a van and just trying to find lounge rooms or church services or youth groups or whatever you can to play at,
Hmm.
but also just sort of meeting people. And as the story goes, they were like, man, if we just added a bass to this could be like a band. This could be a bigger sound. If these gigs get bigger, we need some low end rumble. So who could we add on bass? And they decided to write a list of the bass players that they thought could join those two guys and be in a band. And the list
Hmm.
apparently had one name on it. That's what they told me, had my name on it.
I, yeah.
So they said, hey, let's have a jam. Now, I don't know, like Paul's an amazing guy. I love him dearly, but he's very, I don't know. What do we say? He's a bit of an enigma, our Paul. So he was still not sure whether he wanted to be a solo artist or whether he wanted to be in a band.
Okay.
And he would jump. So sometimes he would be like, "We're the Three Musketeers. It's me and Paul and Phil, like Paul, Phil, Grant. That's the Paul Common Trio." We even come up with a logo for a band, which was the Three Toilet Door Men. And we actually tried to come up with a band name, but we couldn't find one that everyone was happy with. And I think probably one of the reasons why we couldn't find a band name that everyone was happy with was because Paul wasn't really sure he wanted to be in a band. So we decided to call it the Paul Coleman Trio, partly because Paul already had a few gigs booked as Paul Coleman, and he already had a mailing list, like a snail mailing list, like people's names and addresses to send them letters. This is before
Yeah.
email really took off. He had about 300 names on this snail mail list, and he wanted to be able to say, "Oh, it's this Paul Coleman gig, and it's just the Paul Coleman Trio now." That's easier than saying, "By the way, I'm not a solo artist anymore. I'm in a band." Anyway, so we started doing these gigs and we sort of said, let's call it PC3 for short, so we can make that link with the Paul Coleman Trio
And
and
it
have this
also, yeah, it also sounds like a band, PC3.
PC3. Paul Coleman Trio sounds like some sort of jazz combo. Mm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it was PC. We were very sort of pop, rock, acoustic guitar driven rock music, I guess, pop music, folky sometimes. But we wanted to be a band, and I definitely wanted to be in a band. Phil wanted to be in a band. When you're a bass player, you've got to be in a band. You can't really go solo when you're a bass player.
Mhm.
So I guess there was even from the beginning, there was this slight tug. Paul, not sure whether he's a solo artist and where he's backing musicians or whether it's a real band. But we decided we'd call it PC3 and eventually drop the Paul Coleman Trio and just call us PC3 the band. And we actually have an agreement between us. Like PC3 has to be us three guys: Paul, Phil Gordian, Grant Norsworthy. We
Yeah.
can't ever replace one of us. So that's how it's been. But there's always been that little bit of, well, what is this? Like, is this a vehicle for all of Paul Coleman's songwriting and his creativity and his creative outlet, or is there room for the creative outlet of Phil and Grant as well? And so, yeah, that's how it sort of started. And so we put out two studio albums independently. Just we kind of hand a hat around the three band members. Have you got 3 grand? Have you got 3 grand? Have you got 3 grand? Let's book a studio. Let's go into a studio and spend this money. And we put out an album called Serious Fun. And
Yeah,
it
I,
just
I,
it's
I saw that. Yeah, serious fun. Yeah.
right. And then we did the same for an album Turner, although I think Paul paid for all of that one. Again, he's not sure whether he's in a band or whether this is a solo act. I'm not even certain about that, but I think he did. And then we put out two live albums because we're doing these tours around Australia with good crowds, and we record them. So the New Map of the World album was the first album that was put out on a record label and had global release. That was on Essential Records.
Hmm.
But New Map of the World was really a compilation of songs, re-recordings of those songs, re-recorded in a professional studio with Monroe Jones producing, with the financial backing of a record label. But they were able to look over all of the previous albums and choose the best songs to re-record. And so a lot of the songs on New Map of the World, not all of them, but a lot of them have been previously released as independent songs.
Like
And I think that's one of
one
the
of
reasons why the songs are so strong across that record, New
oh,
Map of the
they
World,
really
is
are. They really are.
because we had Paul had years and years and years to write those songs,
Yeah.
and and
Yeah.
and then the pressure's on for the next album, which is called One, and then it's like, oh, crumbs, we've got to come up with a whole bunch of new songs. Um, so yeah, New Map of the World is a particularly strong record, I think, because it was the culmination of, not a bunch of 19-year-olds. We were all, 20 somethings, or I was actually 30, I think, by the time we did that record. Yeah, 2002. Yeah. So there was a strength and a professionalism, I guess, and a length of time for us to develop
Oh,
as a band and those songs before we put out this, what to America and to the rest of the world was
yeah.
our debut record. It's the first record. Well, these guys are pretty ready to go straight out of the box, but they didn't really know that we'd done all these years together before that.
Yeah. No, the sound, my goodness. It is just
Yeah.
amazing. And the instrumentation,
Wow.
it's just
Thank you.
wonderful. Yeah, no, I love that album. Uh, Tell me about two songs in particular, "Killing Tree"
Wow.
and "Turn." You got to turn this life around. You know that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the Killing Tree is my favorite Paul Coleman Trio song.
Yeah.
Um, and Paul wrote that 100%. Now, all of us had input to the creativity of it. And I would have to mention also that we'd hooked up with a guy named Adam Lester, an electric
Uh-huh.
guitarist who would often support us. Even though we were the Paul Coleman Trio, PC3, we would often have this extra guitarist, Adam, with us. Sometimes we'd even add a keyboard player because as the venues get bigger and the crowds get bigger, you want to have a bigger sound. Um, but Adam's an amazing player.
Yeah.
He's actually gone on to play for Frampton for many years and do all sorts of
Oh,
amazing
really?
things.
Peter Frampton. Wow.
Yeah, yeah. So Adam Lester's an amazing guitarist, and he brought some amazing parts and creativity as well. So it's really the four of us creating
Mm.
arrangements for the Killing Tree. But that was obviously a song. We released the Killing Tree on Serious Fun, the first independent record. Um, And then that was one of the songs that was chosen by the label and the American producer for New Map of the World. And the arrangement changed quite a bit, but it was it was a song that we all felt was
Yeah.
perhaps the clearest, most
Yeah.
artistically weighty, rich way that we could present what the cross of Jesus is about,
Yeah. Yeah.
who Jesus
The-
the Christ
yeah.
is.
The meaning of it,
And
and listening to.
yeah,
By the way, I've been listening to your speeches also. Um, but the meaning of it and the way you've spoken about that, I can really see a connection.
yeah,
That's a beautiful song. Beautiful song.
yeah.
God bless you guys
Yeah,
for
it
doing
still
it. Yeah.
chokes me up to this day. Whenever we would
Yeah.
play it live, I would have to be fighting back tears, actually. And I
Yeah.
remember, oh, I'm getting a bit weird right now, even just thinking about it. But
I'm the same way, so
th
don't worry. God help us.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
just think there's this tragic, sad
Yeah.
misunderstanding, I think, within
Hmm.
the Christian church even, but worldwide, about who Jesus really is and what the cross means.
Hmm.
And I think
Yeah.
I think I had this intellectual understanding, a Christian understanding before I joined the Paul Coleman Trio. Oh yeah, God is real. Jesus came to earth. He lived. He died. He rose from the dead. And now I have to be a Christian. But through my years, even before the trio, I started to really question that sort of religious list, that dogma there,
Yeah.
and and then being in a band with Paul, who's just so he's just no BS, like he just shoots from the hip.
Yeah.
I I I
He's bold.
he's bold, yeah.
Yeah.
So I realized, do you know what this Jesus, this information about Jesus is helpful, but actually Jesus is alive.
Yeah.
It's not just information that I need to adhere to or say I believe. He's actually alive,
Yeah.
and seeks relationship with me and with
Mm.
all people and with all creation. And he's doing this to bring us to a, a beautiful way of existing. That
Yeah.
if I was just a Christian in the negative sense, yep, I agree with this stuff and I go to church on Sunday and I'll try to be a good person. That's not what Jesus is offering. He's actually
It's not
offering me a
it
replacement of my selfishness.
it
My
is
desire to
not
live life my way is not the way to
yeah,
go. It's his way.
that's right. It's not a
Hmm.
religion.
No,
It's not a
in
religion.
that negative sense, no.
Yeah, no, it's not.
So
And
the
yeah.
killing tree to me just beautifully portrayed that. Portrayed that. This Jesus offers us himself. And the cross is not just what has been done for us, the cross is
Mhm.
what is required of us. And
Right.
that's what I'd never really heard very clearly. This, you know, this cross of Jesus's is not just for him, it's for me as well. And the
Yeah.
killing tree just said that in a way that deeply moves me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Well, and
and
I
hopefully that comes through the song.
yeah, it does. And no, God bless you. I when I was teaching at the alternative high school, one of my jobs was to do the plays, drama plays.
Yeah.
And to direct them and so on. And they were always small plays. We did 20 minutes, half hour, maybe 40 minutes. It was always short. Um, but they were things that we got engaged in. I, through the grace of God, started doing this. I started saying, Jesus, help me direct this scene because I'm stuck.
Mm.
And within 5 minutes, I want to tell you, that scene would go from D minus to at least a B plus.
Right. Yeah.
You know, because he would get involved, and I really believed it. I really
Yeah.
believed it. So I brought him into the directing, and my goodness, it made a difference. I mean, the scenes were
Mm.
just way better than I conceived earlier. All of a sudden
Yeah.
the puzzle is gone, and it's
Yeah.
because he is the creator. So, so that's why. But
Yeah.
anyway,
You
so
asked about turn as well.
turn, yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, again, it's Paul writing the song. In fact, I remember him singing to me the main intro
yeah,
and verse bass part.
yeah,
I was trying to come up with something. He said, what about do 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 do
yeah,
do do do? And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm grooving that. So we would have lots of interaction like that. But it's Paul's song. But again, it was I think partly out of this sense of, man, the Christian church globally, in Australia, but in America, globally,
yeah,
claims this access to Jesus the Christ, the way. We have this special connection with Jesus. Yet, what a mess we are. We're in such a huge mess. Like, what?
yeah,
How could you expect people in their right minds to not see between the cracks and notice that there's something missing? This is the
mm,
opening line to the song Turn. We've got to turn this life around. And we were trying to say that, no, this revolution that we're hoping for, or this revival, maybe a better word that we're looking for, needs to start in me. This
yeah,
It's got to turn this life around. It's not turn your life around. Come on, you've got to change. You've got to change to be more like me. That doesn't work. That never works.
no,
So if we believe that this Jesus is who he claims to be and that he's alive and he's real, then we have to turn our lives around and submit more completely to him. And let's make that message sound great. So let's work really hard
yeah,
on the grooves and the drums and the guitar parts and the vocals, and let's make it really rock. So that's what we
yeah.
did.
Um, you were, and I guess I missed this, but I learned about this just the last few days as I'm getting ready for this interview. That you were with Sonic Flood. You want to talk
Right.
about that just a little bit? I mean, was that good or
Yeah,
not?
sure.
Yeah,
Yeah. So when the Paul Common Trio sort of stopped being a what I call an ongoing concern, well,
yeah,
we decided, look, Paul wants to go solo. Phil wants to go back to Melbourne. my wife Brooke and I, we wanted to stay in Nashville, and I wanted to, all right, I'll try and be a freelance bass guitarist. So I started playing some recording sessions as bass and going out on the road as a bass guitarist, being hired by different people. And then it fell to me to audition for Sonic Flood, who, and this is, I want to say 2004. So they had two hugely successful albums in the late 90s and early 2000s. But after that time, their band, the Sonic Flood band, became a bit of a revolving door of band members. And
Yeah.
in truth, Sonic Flood was never about who's in the band. It was more about uh, crafting songs that had a pop rock sort of sound, but they were actually, the lyrics were prayers to God or praises of God, and you could invite a congregation to sing them. This was a time that it was massive, massive change, late 90s into early 2000s. We call Christian contemporary music this big slab of an industry of music. Writing songs, maybe in the 70s, 80s, even early 90s, writing songs that were suitable for a church congregation to sing together was very small, a slice of that. And most of
Yeah.
this was songs for a band to write, record, perform, and they could still be pointing to the worth of God, but they weren't really suitable for a Sunday church service or a church congregation to sing together. But then it was with a band called Delirious out of the UK and Sonic Flood in the late 2000s, where what we might call the worship wars sort of happened.
Right.
And
Right.
this is
Right.
also around the time of Hillsong and a bunch of other things. And you'd have to say a charismatic renewal that was happening globally, or at least
Oh,
in the English
fantastic
speaking world, to
music.
my
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So now we want drums and electric guitar and bass in the church service. We want to have more of a pop rock sort of sound, but we're still going to project the lyrics and they should be prayers to God. So Sonic Flood was a forefather of that modern worship revival, you might call it. But
Yeah.
I found myself in the band after their heyday, but still doing decent touring and recording. I'm only on one record. I really feel like I was there very much as a hired technician of bass guitar and singing backing vocals, and I got to do some interviews and things like that. So there was this pretense of it being a band, but it was really my boss, the lead singer, and his wife, the manager, who owned the name Sonic Flood. But I tell you what, I really did learn a lot about the difference between performing music, like Paul Commentary was mainly about, even though you're hoping this shows the worth of God, and inviting a congregation to sing together as their expression of the worth of God.
Yeah.
Um, so I would like to think that performing music can be worshipful, but the Christian church today uses the word worship to really mean this. When the people are like, it's a genre of music where the lyrics are prayers and praises of God, and when the congregation is singing, that's worship. I don't subscribe to that use of the word worship personally, but I know what people mean. So I learned a lot about how you can use music to help a congregation kind of forget that there are performers on the platform and focus more intentionally on God and sing their own prayer to Him.
Right. Right.
And that's a lot of what I do now, trying to create clarity around that. So I'm really appreciative of my 3 years with Sonic Flood as bass guitarist, and I'm on one album that called Glimpse that no one heard. Um, but
I'll
yeah,
check
I
it out.
learned a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a live album, and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, because I think there's a lot of confusion in the church as we speak to each other today. I think there's a lot of confusion in the church about the difference between performing music for an audience and helping a congregation sing their own prayers to God. I think you'll
And
make different vocal,
yeah.
instrumental, and technical choices from one to the other, and that's often
And that's
blurred.
and that's one of your key messages as you speak. I've been if I'm if
Absolutely.
I'm if I'm right on that, because I've been listening to some
Yes,
of
you
your
are.
speeches, and I'm going to continue listening, by the way. Um, okay, so from there now, the solo career. Um, you're doing music, you're speaking, you're teaching. Just sum that up as best as you can and talk about it. So even
Sure.
even though it's impossible, but sum it up a
I'll
little
do
bit
my
as
best.
best.
I'll do
Yeah,
my best. So I
yeah,
love playing bass guitar, especially in a
yeah,
really good band. I love
yeah,
it. It's a lot of joy. I love creating music, arrangements, songwriting, and to me, as maybe because I'm a bass player, there's actually quite a blur between the creativity of arranging a band and writing a song. Like to a guy
yeah,
like Paul Coleman, writing a song is the lyric and the melody. And he might have his acoustic guitar to support that with chords, but the chords might change later. But the songwriting is really the lyric and the melody. Whereas to me, the creativity that we put into a recording of a song might be the melody and the bass part, or the melody, like there's other things about music that make it really creative and connect with people. But to me, it's blurry. Where does
Mm.
songwriting finish and arrangement and production start? To me, it's more blurry. Anyway, I had been writing songs, and it was getting to be a really hard struggle in the Paul Common Trio again, where Paul really wanted to be the only songwriter in the band, but sometimes he'd be very open to my songwriting or Phil's songwriting. But other times he was very I don't want to sing your
Okay.
songs. In fact, you're not actually a very good songwriter, Grant. He would say that to me, and he was probably right. But I did write a bunch of songs, so I did end up, and I tried to submit songs for Sonic Flood too, but that was a closed door as well. No, you're here as a bass player. We don't really want that. And they heard, my boss heard songs, and even tried to co-write with me a couple of times, but for whatever reason, none of that creativity
Mm.
became part of Sonic Flood. So I put out a solo record, I want to say in 2011, I think. I called it Resident Alien. Just
Yeah, Resident Alien. Yeah, yeah,
a
love that.
collection of songs that,
Yeah.
and actually one of them was a song called Here for Life that was a Paul Common Trio song. It did get onto a Paul Common Trio record, but most of them were these original songs that I had lying around. But I was beginning to realize, and this is where, by the way, my oldest son Max had been born, and I realized that this being a bass guitarist, touring, recording musician, at least at the level I was at, which felt like the ground floor of a career. I wasn't going to jump into a successful band that could choose its tour dates and all that. I was very much in a position of I have to take any gig I get wherever it goes, and no matter how little I'm getting paid. That's not a very good family man choice.
Yeah.
And while I was in Sonic Flood, I'd actually been given the 5 to 7 minutes during our concerts to speak on behalf of Compassion International, which is a child sponsorship organization. And I found myself during my time with Sonic Flood getting more and more passionate about my talk than I was about all the bass playing. Even
Oh,
though I
okay.
love bass playing, but the bass playing was really still me just playing the parts that I had to play. I wasn't really able to express my creativity, but I was given an opportunity to be creative and teach a congregation or an audience for this 5 to 7 minutes. And that's where I felt like God was saying, this is what you're better at, this
Yeah.
teaching part. And so, and I would say things in my talks like, I don't believe the main problem with the world today is poverty or starvation or disease or the number of children that die from hunger and preventable causes. The main problem with the world today is that I'm selfish.
Yeah. Oh,
And,
wow.
and, and I would mean it.
Wow.
I wouldn't mean you guys are
Wow.
selfish or we are
Yeah.
all selfish. I would say I am selfish. I believe that God is real. I believe that Jesus is alive. I believe he has availed himself to me, but I'm still a person making sure I'm okay first. And my wife and my kids are fed and popular and fashionable and well dressed and comfortable and entertained first before I get compassionate for anyone else. And I
Mm.
recognized that needed to change. So I sort of confessed that. And so when I finished with Sonic Flood, now we're talking very early 20, can't remember, 20. Anyway, when I finished with Sonic Flood, that's what I feel like God was birthing in me. You're actually a speaker teacher. And so I just started setting myself out to church services or college chapel services or wherever I could find where I could hopefully speak, turning this 5 to 7 minutes into whatever time I was given. And I could certainly
Yeah.
grab a guitar and put a capo on. I'd learnt 4 chords, so I could play a lot of songs, especially the more popular, what we call worship songs. And so it fell to me almost by default to what we call lead worship. And I do the weird rabbit ear fingers thing. Forgive me if that's too strange, but I, when when we use the word worship most commonly today within the Christian
Mhm.
church, it's usually as an adjective like worship band, worship leader, worship song, worship service. And I think that's actually not only a symptom of a problem, but a cause of a problem, the way we use the word. Because to me, as I study scripture and as I listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit in my own life as best I can, it seems to me that to worship God should not be limited to a Sunday morning event or a genre of music or a chill down our spine, even though those things are really important. In fact, it seems to me that God asks us to show his worth or worship him. That's what the word worship is supposed to mean. It's supposed to be a verb, not an adjective. Worship is to show the worth of God. And as I study scripture, it seems to me the most common and most powerful way God asks us to worship him is by surrendering our own selfishness and caring for those in need in our own family, in our own community, to the ends of the earth. So that was at the heartbeat of what I started speaking about. Ironically, though, I've got these musical skills. I love music. So I developed a curriculum that I now call More Than Music Mentor. You can find out more about that at morethanmusicmentor.com, where I'm trying
Okay.
to scoop up amateur church volunteer musicians or professional if they are, and just help the musicians who are part of Christian churches to use music more effectively as one of the ways we worship God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because this use of music is actually more important than I think we realize, not less, as one of the ways we show the worth of God.
Well, and you're good at it. I don't
Wow,
know what the
thanks.
I don't know what the enemy is trying to tell you, that you're not good enough and stuff, but you're good at it.
Yeah,
I love
wow,
I love that Resident Alien. I love My Declaration. You were singing that. I
wow.
checked out your
Yeah,
website a little bit and stuff.
thank
And
you.
the way you do be thou my, what do you call it?
Be thou my vision, the old hymn.
Be thou my vision. Oh my God. I just love that, especially with that young girl playing the cello.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my, what a sound that is.
Wow, thank you.
Original and refreshing. Yeah, no, you're awesome. You're awesome. And
Wow.
God
Well,
bless,
thank you.
God, yeah, God bless you in what you do. And I really hope that I get to see you in a show. Are you going to come to Denver at all?
Well, it takes being invited.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm sometimes having conversations with churches or bigger events in America about maybe coming from New Zealand to America. I'm
It's
ready
a,
to travel. To travel. I've
okay.
got an American passport. I am American citizen,
Oh,
uh,
wow.
and can freely work and visit.
That's awesome.
No,
Yeah.
if you like, if
Yeah.
anyone watching this, or if you feel like I'd be a good person to at least meet some church leaders to talk about maybe having me come over, or just to find out more about what I do, or even just to meet. I'd love to make that happen.
Well,
But I
I'll
do
work on
travel
it.
to churches to do these training workshops for church
Yeah.
musicians, or I preach, or I do whatever. Yeah, I'm ready. I'm
Well,
ready to come.
you just motivated me, so I'll work on it. No
Thank you.
promises, but no promises, but because I'm a beginning YouTuber,
Yeah,
but I do love talking to people, and that
me
challenge,
too.
even though it frustrates me, I love it. So I'll work on it. But anyway, so that's that, and then I want to wrap it up with a couple of questions,
Yeah,
because this being an educational type channel, your
sure.
wisdom in this, your wisdom in this. What's your advice to youngsters who want to go your path, who want to be musicians, and they're in high school right now, but
Yeah,
they really have this ambition, and you know them. I mean, you've seen them,
yeah.
uh, and they want to go your path. So, what's your advice to them?
Well, it really depends. My advice would probably be different from one person to another. Like it's not a one size fits all. I'd want to I'd want to know them first where they're at, and a key part of that was, are they a follower of Jesus? Are they a person who recognizes Jesus as the Christ? Um, if they're not, then I'd probably say something very different, because I don't want to be culturally insensitive, or wherever we are with that. However, I would say that it's really important that we explore things in life where we get to a point of realizing kind of what we're created to do. what like who we're supposed to be. And I remember as a kid thinking that if I was a serious, passionate follower of Jesus, he would surely send me to some horrible country to be a missionary. And I didn't want to do that. Like I'd have to live in, you know, a terrible situation. And I had this really weird idea. But actually, God wants us to realize who he's created us to be and step into that. Um, and he really just wants us to love him and love people as the first two most important things. Love God, love people, and then do whatever you want to do after that. So I'd be asking people to focus on that. Love God and love people and do whatever you want to do. But the musical path is a very, very difficult one. And I'd say, especially today as we speak, where like, how do you move forward in a musical career when there's things like AI writing songs that are better than a
Yeah.
lot of musicians can do?
Yeah.
Like what is going on? How do you distribute music? Oh, well, it's easy, but how do you get that distributed music heard? I don't know. Like, so it's a tough game, but you have
Yeah.
to follow what you're created for. Like, attune yourself to the voice of God. Prayer
Yeah.
is not just speaking prayers. Prayer is listening.
Yeah. That's
And
right.
my father used to say to me, what you got to do is like really invest your 10,000 hours of personal improvement in something that naturally occurring before the 10,000 hours. You're a 6 or a 7 out of 10. If you find something in your naturally occurring makeup that's a 2 out of 10, and you work
Yeah.
your whole life to improve that,
Yeah.
you might end up being a 5 or a 6. But if you find what's naturally occurring a 6 or 7 out of 10, just how you are, like, some kids are just better at shooting baskets on a basketball court than others. You
Yeah.
know, the kid who first time you throw them the ball, they're pretty good at it. They should put their 10,000 hours in because they might go to the NBA. Same thing with music. If you're a 2 out of 10 when you start singing before any singing lessons, keep singing, but don't try to make it a career. But if you're a
Yeah.
6 or a 7 singing or playing bass guitar or whatever, if you're naturally already really good at that, then invest your 10,000 hours and make sure you're a 9 or a 10. Do that. So that'd be my advice. But also, I want to share my least favorite C.S. Lewis quote.
Yeah.
I'd want to tell them this.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't like this, but C.S. Lewis says, "Every poet, artist, and musician, but for grace, is drawn away from the thing they tell to the love of the telling, until down in deep hell they cannot be interested in God at
Oh.
all, but
Oh
only in what
man.
they say about Him."
What
So just
words
be
they
aware,
are. Yeah.
especially
Yeah. Yeah.
especially for us who are creative types,
Yeah.
musicians. If you want to be on a platform, whether that be a literal stage or have a lot of Spotify views, you know, YouTube views or Spotify plays, or if you're desiring to, you're going, oh, I've got something creative and I deserve a big audience. If you're thinking that, you might be right, but you might be deluding yourself.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you can fall in love with doing things for God. Look at this great song I wrote. Look at all these people who clicked. Look at all these people whose lives have been changed by my art. I'm so good. That can be a false God. That can be an idol. Just be aware of that. And here's the dangerous thing: we will be unaware that it's happening. I'm unaware. So that's my biggest advice. You've got to have people around you, not just your girlfriend, not just your parents, who are willing to say, you're not that good, actually. And you're actually falling in love with an audience. We need
Mhm.
people like that in our lives who are willing to say that. And that will
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
be nice to hear, but we need people like that in our lives.
Yeah. Uh, advice. One last advice. Advice to Christians today.
Just to say, I don't, I don't have anything to offer Christians, but all I can say is Jesus
Mm.
is alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
He rose from the dead,
Yeah.
and he is with us. He
Amen.
is with us.
Amen.
Live in that reality.
Yeah.
Die to yourself. And here's the great paradox of the human experience. The true path to life, the life to the full that Jesus offers us,
Yeah.
paradoxically, comes through death to the self.
Yeah.
This is not about being a good Christian or where you are on Sunday morning or how well you know the Bible. Those things can be super important and helpful. It's actually about Jesus is alive and he's
Amen.
here.
Amen. Amen.
Live in that. That's and I don't have that worked out. Do not have that worked out. But yeah, that's all I can say. I don't have the answer, but I'm following the one who is the answer. And if I'm deluding myself, so be it. I'll die and I'll go to dust like everybody else. But if I'm right, if he really is the answer, then I want to live in a way that shows that that is true for me. And we who call ourselves Christian, and I actually, to be honest with you, I don't comfortably call myself Christian because it means so much that has nothing to do with Jesus to many people who hear that word.
Right. Right. Right.
Um, but we should be radically different to everybody else.
Hmm.
We should be radically different. We should be not looking after ourselves. We should be looking after others. And
Yeah.
we're not. I'm not very good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, look. Here
Grant.
I am. I'm living the dream in a beautiful part of the world in my nice studio with guitars hanging on the wall. And I'm
Oh, it's
looking after
beautiful.
myself. But
Yeah.
yeah, Jesus is alive. Let's live like that.
Amen. Amen. Grant Noseworthy, thank you so much for joining us. If folks want to reach out to you, what's your preferred method? If
Well, I've tried to make myself as contactable as possible. There's grantnorsworthy.com. There's also
Okay.
morethanmusicmentor.com. And there's email connected with those websites that come straight to my inbox. I'm also quite obvious on Facebook as Grant Norsworthy. So
Okay.
contact me there. I'm also on Instagram. But yeah, I don't have a staff or anything. I'm just this guy. But yeah, I'm ready to speak to people. Contact me if you'd like to. And I'd love to come back to America, to Denver, or anywhere else, or anywhere in the world. Actually, if I get to proclaim Jesus and serve, I'm ready.
Well, we will, God willing, work on that, and God willing, we'll see you in concert and in person. Uh, I'm just blessed beyond measure. You have really blessed me today. God bless you, and thank you.
Mm. Thank you, Mr. Javadi.
Okay, bye bye.